Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the ESV Horizon, her eyes fixed on the massive structure that had appeared on their long-range scanners just hours ago. After 15 years of deep space exploration, she thought she'd seen everything the universe had to offer. She was wrong. "Report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the tension crackling through the bridge. Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's chief scientist, spoke without looking up from his console. "It's approximately 3 kilometers in length, Captain. The hull composition is unlike anything we've ever encountered. It appears to be absorbing our scanning beams rather than reflecting them." The object hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, its dark hull seeming to bend light around it. Initial scans had classified it as a ship, but its design defied conventional spacefaring logic. Instead of the usual geometric shapes favored by known civilizations, this vessel looked almost organic, with curves and contours that reminded Sarah of deep-sea creatures from Earth's oceans. "Life signs?" she asked, though she already suspected the answer. "None detected," Lieutenant Paddle responded from Tactical. "But there's something else. The ship is generating power. Minimal levels, but it's there. After what must be centuries of drift." Sarah felt a familiar tingle at the base of her neck, the same sensation she'd experienced before every major discovery in her career. "Ready a boarding team. Full containment protocols." "Captain," Webb interjected, his voice carrying an edge of excitement he couldn't quite suppress. "The energy signature. It's changing. I think the ship is responding to our presence." As if to confirm his observation, a series of lights flickered to life along the mysterious vessel's hull, creating patterns that pulsed with an almost hypnotic rhythm. The bridge crew watched in stunned silence as the massive ship seemed to awaken from its long slumber. "Ma'am," Patel called out, her fingers dancing across her console. "We're receiving a transmission. It's using an Earth frequency. Impossible. These codes weren't developed until after we achieved faster-than-light travel." Before Sarah could respond, the ship's speakers crackled to life. The voice that emerged was synthetic, but carried undertones that made it sound almost human. "Greetings, ESV Horizon. This is the archival vessel Nexus. Your species has been deemed ready for first contact. Please prepare for integration protocol." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as officers reported simultaneous system activations across their ship. Displays flickered with streams of data in unknown languages, star charts they'd never seen, and technical specifications that made their most advanced technology look primitive by comparison. "Captain," Webb breathed, his face illuminated by the cascade of new information. "This isn't just a ship. It's a library. A repository of knowledge from, I can't even begin to count how many civilizations." Sarah felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders. Humanity had dreamed of first contact for centuries, but this was something else entirely. This wasn't just meeting another species. This was an invitation to join something greater. "Send word to Earth Command," she ordered, her eyes never leaving the magnificent vessel before them. "But encrypt it heavily. If this ship has been waiting for us, others might be watching too." As her crew carried out her orders, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being tested. The ship hadn't just appeared by chance. It had chosen this moment, this location, this crew. And somehow, she knew this was only the beginning. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. 3 boarding teams, led by Sarah herself, explored the vessel's accessible sections. Each step revealed new wonders, rooms that reconfigured themselves based on the occupants' needs, interfaces that responded to thought as much as touch, and archive systems that contained knowledge spanning millennia. But it was in the ship's central chamber that they made the most startling discovery. A holographic projection filled the massive space, showing thousands of worlds, countless civilizations, and a threat that made Sarah's blood run cold. The Nexus hadn't chosen humanity by chance. It had chosen them out of necessity. "The Devourers," the ship's AI explained, its voice echoing through the chamber. "They consume entire civilizations, not for resources or territory, but for the sheer pleasure of destruction. They have ended millions of species, and they are coming. But you, humanity, you have something the others lacked. And what's that? Sarah asked, though part of her already knew the answer. Adaptability, creativity, the ability to take the impossible and make it reality. You don't accept limitations, you break them. The Nexus doesn't just contain knowledge, Captain Chen. It contains power. Power that can only be unlocked by a species willing to evolve beyond their current understanding of reality itself. As Sarah stood there, surrounded by the legacy of countless fallen civilizations, she realized that humanity's greatest test wasn't finding the ship. It was proving worthy of its trust. And time, as always, was running out. How long? She asked. The Devourers will reach your space in 5 years. By then, you must be ready. The question is, Captain Chen, are you prepared to help your species take an evolutionary leap that cannot be undone? Sarah looked at her crew, saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. Humanity had always looked to the stars with hope and wonder. Now the stars were looking back, offering them a chance not just to survive, but to become something more. We're ready, she said, and felt the ship respond to her words, its systems humming with renewed purpose. Show us everything. 3 months after the discovery of the Nexus, Earth's orbital space had transformed into a hive of activity. The massive archive vessel hung in synchronous orbit above the Pacific Ocean, its dark hull reflecting the golden sunlight of dawn. Around it, dozens of research vessels and military ships maintained a protective perimeter, though Captain Chen suspected the Nexus needed no such protection. In her new quarters aboard the alien vessel, Sarah reviewed the latest integration reports. The ship's AI had been true to its word. It was sharing knowledge, but not freely. Instead, it presented challenges, puzzles, and problems that pushed human understanding to its limits and beyond. Dr. Webb's team has completed the quantum mechanics trial, Lieutenant Puddle reported, her holographic form appearing beside Sarah's desk. Like many of the core crew, Patil had adapted quickly to the Nexus's communication systems. He says it's changed everything we thought we knew about particle physics. And the engineering team. They've successfully replicated a small portion of the self-repairing hull material. It's crude compared to the Nexus, but it works. The AI says our progress is unprecedented. Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to a notification pulsing at the edge of her neural interface. Another gift from the Nexus, and one that had sparked fierce debate among Earth's leaders. The integration between human and machine was voluntary, but those who accepted it gained direct access to the ship's vast databases and communication systems. "Show me," she commanded, and the notification expanded into a full sensory experience. She found herself standing in the ship's core, where Dr. Elena Rodriguez, their lead xenobiologist, was making a discovery. "Captain," Elena said, noticing Sarah's presence, "you need to see this. The ship, it's not just teaching us. It's learning from us too." The scientist gestured to a wall of shifting patterns that Sarah had initially taken for decorative. Under Elena's guidance, she saw it clearly. The patterns were changing, incorporating elements of human DNA structures, neural pathways, and even cultural symbols. "It's creating a hybrid technology," Elena explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "Something that's neither purely alien nor purely human. The AI says this has never happened before. Previous species either rejected the integration or tried to take the knowledge by force." Before Sarah could respond, a new presence joined them, the ship's AI, manifesting as a shifting form of light and shadow. "Your observations are correct, Dr. Rodriguez. Humanity's approach is unique. Where others sought to conquer or submit, you seek to understand and adapt." The AI's form stabilized slightly, taking on a more humanoid appearance while maintaining its ethereal quality. "But there is something you must know. The integration is proceeding faster than anticipated, and it has drawn attention. The Devourers are not the only ones watching. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the ship. Sarah's consciousness snapped back to her physical form, where Paddle was already providing updates. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Captain. Ships dropping out of hyperspace. Configurations unknown. Sarah reached out through her neural link, connecting with the ship's defensive systems. The Nexus's sensors painted a clear picture. 7 vessels, each larger than Earth's biggest battleships, had appeared at the edge of the solar system. Their designs were angular, aggressive, and completely alien. The Arbiters, the AI's voice echoed in Sarah's mind. They enforce technological development restrictions across this sector of space. They believe uncontrolled advancement leads to destruction. You knew they would come, Sarah stated, not as an accusation, but as a realization. Yes, this too is a test. The Arbiters represent order without progress, stagnation in the name of safety. How humanity handles this encounter will determine much. The alien ships approached with deliberate slowness, their intentions clear. They were here to judge. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle deeper into her bones. This wasn't just about protecting the Nexus anymore. It was about defending humanity's right to grow, to evolve, to reach its full potential. Through her neural link, she could feel the crew's tension, their determination, and something else, a resonance between human and ship that grew stronger each day. The Nexus wasn't just a vessel anymore. It was becoming a part of them, and they a part of it. The Arbiters will demand we surrender the ship, the AI warned. They will offer promises of protection, of guided development under their supervision. All lies. They fear what humanity might become. Sarah straightened in her chair, decision made. Open a channel to Earth Command, then prepare to broadcast on all frequencies. She paused, feeling the ship's systems align with her intent. If the Arbiters want to judge us, let them, but they'll find that humanity doesn't take well to being limited. As she prepared to face this new challenge, Sarah reflected on how far they'd come in just 3 months. The Nexus had changed them, yes, but not by force or manipulation. It had simply shown them what they could become when they dared to reach beyond their limitations. The approaching Ardor ships grew larger on the displays, their weapons clearly primed. But Sarah felt no fear, only anticipation. Because for the first time, humanity wasn't facing an advanced alien species as supplicants or students. They were facing them as equals. Through her neural link, she could feel the Nexus' approval, its systems humming with power and possibility. Whatever came next, they would face it together, human and machine, flesh and technology, united in a way the Arbiters couldn't understand and the Devourers would learn to fear. The Arbiter ships loomed in Earth's orbit like obsidian monoliths, their angular forms a stark contrast to both human vessels and the organic curves of the Nexus. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Archive vessel, watching as the final preparations for the confrontation fell into place. Through her neural interface, she could feel the tension radiating from every crew member connected to the ship's network. Incoming transmission, Patil announced, her voice steady despite the pressure. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, including ones we didn't know existed. Put them through, Sarah commanded, straightening her uniform. The holographic display materialized before her, revealing a being that defied human expectations of alien life. The Arbiter representative appeared as a crystalline structure that pulsed with internal light, its voice resonating directly in their minds. Humanity, the Arbiter's thoughts carried undercurrents of disapproval and concern. You harbor technology far beyond your designated development level. The Archive vessel known as Nexus must be surrendered immediately. Compliance will be rewarded with protected status under Arbiter guidance. Sarah felt the Nexus's eye brush against her consciousness, sharing centuries of context in an instant. The Arbiters had done this before, stunting the growth of countless species in the name of safety and order. Some civilizations had existed for millennia under their protection, never advancing beyond the limitations imposed upon them. With respect, Sarah replied, her voice carrying across space, We decline. The Nexus chose humanity for a reason, and we've proven ourselves worthy of its trust. The crystalline being's light patterns shifted to deep red. You do not comprehend the dangers. Unrestricted technological advancement leads to chaos, to destruction. We have witnessed the fall of thousands of civilizations who believed themselves ready for power they could not control. As if to emphasize the point, the Arbiter ships began powering up their weapon systems. Their energy signatures were massive, far beyond anything Earth's defenses could hope to match. But Sarah felt no fear, only a growing sense of connection with both her crew and the ship itself. "Perhaps," she responded, "it's you who don't comprehend. The Nexus doesn't just give us technology, it helps us understand it. Every advancement we've made has been earned through learning, through proving we can handle the responsibility that comes with it." Through her neural link, Sarah could feel the Nexus's systems adapting, evolving in response to the threat. But it wasn't acting alone. Human creativity and intuition were guiding these changes, creating defensive measures the Arbiters had never encountered. "Your species is young," the Arbiter insisted. "Barely a century of space travel. You cannot possibly be ready for the knowledge contained within the archive." "Age isn't everything," Dr. Webb spoke up, stepping forward. "In 3 months, we've not only learned to use the Nexus's technology, we've improved upon it. Show them, Captain." Sarah nodded, and through their combined neural network, the crew activated the improvements they'd made to the archive vessel. The ship's hull began to shift, revealing integrated defense systems that merged human tactical thinking with alien technology. Energy fields sprang to life. But they weren't just barriers. They were dynamic, responsive, learning from every scan the Arbiter ships conducted. "Impossible," the crystalline being's thought voice carried traces of shock. "These modifications, they'd bear patterns we've never seen." "Because they're human patterns," Sarah explained. "We don't just copy technology. We understand it, adapt it, make it our own. The Nexus chose us because we don't accept limitations. We break them, then build something better from the pieces." The Arbiter ship's weapons remained charged, but Sarah could sense uncertainty in their formations. Through the neural network, she received tactical analyses from both her crew and the ship's eye. The Arbiters had never encountered a species that had integrated so completely with archive technology, let alone one that had begun to evolve it. "You risk drawing the attention of forces you cannot comprehend," the Arbiter warned. "The Devourers are already coming," Sarah interrupted. "We know. The Nexus showed us. That's why we can't afford to be held back by your restrictions. Humanity needs to be ready, and we will be. Not as subordinates to your rule, but as equals standing against a common enemy." Silence filled the communication channels as the Arbiters processed this defiance. Sarah could feel her crew's determination, their readiness to defend Earth and the knowledge they'd gained. But she also felt something else through the neural network, approval from the Nexus itself, as if this confrontation was the final test it had been waiting for. "You leave us no choice," the Arbiter declared, but before the alien ships could act, the space around them began to change. The Nexus, guided by its human crew, was doing something unprecedented. It was revealing just a fraction of its true capabilities. Reality itself seemed to bend as the archive vessel exerted its influence. The Arbiter ships found their weapons suddenly depowered, their advanced systems temporarily locked in a quantum state between activation and shutdown. "No," Sarah corrected. "You leave us no choice. We won't surrender the Nexus, and we won't submit to your restrictions. But we're offering you something else. Partnership. Help us prepare for the Devourers. Learn from us as we've learned from the archive. Together, we might actually have a chance of stopping them." The crystalline being's light patterns shifted through a spectrum of colors before settling into a deep blue. "In all our history of oversight, no species has ever..." It paused, reassessing. Perhaps we have become too rigid in our methods. Your integration with the archive is unlike anything we've witnessed." "Then witness what comes next," Sarah offered, feeling the support of her crew and the nexus itself behind her words. Stay and observe. Participate. But understand that humanity will advance with or without your approval. The only question is whether you'll be allies or obstacles in what's coming. As the standoff reached its climax, Sarah felt a shift in the quantum fields surrounding them. The Nexus had detected something, a distant disturbance that confirmed their worst fears. The Devourers were moving faster than expected. The time for tests and trials was over. Now they needed to prepare for war. The orbital shipyards around Mars buzzed with activity as humanity raced against time. 6 months had passed since the confrontation with the Arbiters, and the solar system had transformed. Where once there were simple stations and satellites, now massive structures grew like crystalline forests in space, each one a hybrid of human ingenuity and Nexus technology. Sarah Chen, now Admiral Chen, watched through her enhanced consciousness as another vessel took shape. Unlike the utilitarian designs of Earth's past, these new ships grew rather than were built, their hulls incorporating the same living metal as the Nexus. Each one was unique, shaped by the minds and personalities of their future crews. The Arbiters are still having trouble accepting our methods, Dr. Webb commented, his consciousness joining hers in the virtual observation space. After months of integration with the Nexus, most of the senior staff could project their awareness anywhere in the solar system. They've never seen ships grown instead of constructed. They're adapting, Sarah responded, noting the Arbiter vessels now stationed throughout the system. True to their word, they had stayed to observe and gradually to learn. Yesterday, I caught their engineers studying our neural interface designs. They're starting to understand that restriction breeds weakness, not safety. An alert pulsed through their shared consciousness, Dr. Rodriguez requesting their attention from her laboratory deep within the Nexus. When they joined her, they found the xenobiologist literally glowing, her body emanating soft light, as new changes manifested. It's happening faster now, Elena reported, her excitement evident both physically and through the neural net. The integration isn't just technological anymore. We're evolving on a biological level. Look at this. She shared her latest findings through the network. The data showed how human DNA was adapting to interface more efficiently with the Nexus's systems. But it went beyond that. Human consciousness itself was expanding, developing new neural pathways that allowed for deeper understanding of concepts that should have been beyond their comprehension. The Nexus isn't just a ship or an archive, Elena explained. It's a catalyst for directed evolution. Every species that found it before either feared the change or tried to control it. We're the first to embrace it, to work with it instead of against it. Sarah processed this information, feeling the truth of it in her own transformed consciousness. She could sense the Nexus's vast knowledge more clearly now, understanding alien concepts that would have been incomprehensible months ago. But the ship was changing too, incorporating human emotions, creativity, and intuition into its systems. Incoming priority signal, Patel's consciousness broadcast across their network. Long-range probes have detected quantum disturbances at the edge of charted space. The Devourers are accelerating their advance. Sarah's awareness snapped back to her physical form on the Nexus's bridge, now transformed into a space that existed as much in consciousness as in reality. Show me. The data flowed through their shared neural network. The Devourers moved like a plague through space, consuming everything in their path. But now they could see the pattern behind the destruction, a horrible intelligence that learned and adapted from every civilization it destroyed. They're not just destroyers, Sarah realized, the Nexus's knowledge helping her understand. They're collectors, like the archive, but twisted. They don't preserve knowledge. They devour it, along with the species that created it. Through their link, the Nexus's AI confirmed her insight. This is why the archive chose humanity. You understand adaptation, the need to evolve. But unlike the Devourers, you create rather than consume. You build instead of destroy. A new presence joined their consciousness, the crystalline form of the Arbiter leadership, finally beginning to embrace the neural interface technology they had once feared. "We have analyzed your defense preparations," they communicated. "Your methods are unorthodox, but the results cannot be denied. The new ships you have grown, they possess capabilities we thought impossible. Because we're not trying to match the Devourer's strength," Sarah explained, sharing images of the fleet they were growing. "We're creating something entirely new. Each ship is alive, aware, bonded to its crew. They don't just fight. They evolve during battle, learning and adapting in real time." The Arbiter's consciousness rippled with something close to awe. "We have maintained the same technological level for millennia, believing stability meant safety. But watching humanity, perhaps we were wrong. Evolution is not just inevitable, it is necessary." Sarah felt a surge of hope. The Arbiter's support would be crucial in the coming conflict, not just for their military strength, but for their influence over other spacefaring species. If they could convince their former overseers to embrace change, others would follow. But time was running out. Through the vast neural network that now connected the solar system, Sarah could feel the approaching storm. The Devourers were coming, drawn perhaps by the very changes they had embraced. Humanity's transformation would be put to the test sooner than anyone had expected. "Begin the final phase," she ordered, her consciousness reaching out to every ship and station in the system. "If we're going to evolve, let's make it count. Show me what humanity can really become when we stop fearing change and start directing it." As her orders spread through the network, the shipyards burst into renewed activity. Around Earth, Mars, and throughout the asteroid belt, new vessels began to grow, each one more advanced than the last. But the greatest transformation was happening within the humans themselves, as they learned to navigate the boundary between flesh and technology, between individual consciousness and shared awareness. They were becoming something new, something that had never existed before. And soon, they would find out if it was enough to save not just humanity, but all of civilization from the approaching storm. The void between Mars and Jupiter erupted with quantum distortions as the Devourer fleet tore through space-time. Their ships, if they could be called that, were ever-shifting masses of dark energy and consumed technology, each one unique and horrifying in its construction. They'd move like a swarm of predatory creatures, consuming everything in their path. Admiral Sarah Chen, her consciousness merged with both the Nexus and the vast defense network humanity had grown, watched them approach. The human fleet waited in formation, their living ships pulsing with power and possibility. Each vessel was an evolution of the original Nexus design, but transformed by human creativity and the unique personalities of their crews. "They're scanning us," Dr. Webb reported through the neural network, "trying to analyze our capabilities. But the ships keep changing, adapting. They can't get a clear reading." "That's the point," Sarah responded, feeling the collective determination of every human, AI, and hybrid consciousness connected to the network. "We're not just fighting them, we're outvolving them." The Devourer fleet paused, perhaps sensing that this prey was different from any they had encountered before. A transmission burst across all frequencies, its content more emotional than linguistic. Hunger, dominance, the thrill of destruction. But underneath it all was something else, curiosity. "They want to know what we've become," the Nexus eye observed, its consciousness now so intertwined with Sarah's that they thought as one. In all their consumption of civilizations, they've never encountered anything like us. Through their enhanced awareness, Sarah could see the Arbiter's ships moving into position, their crystalline vessels now incorporating elements of human biotechnology. They had changed too, learning to balance their desire for order with the necessity of evolution. "All ships," Sarah broadcast across the neural network, her thoughts reaching every transformed human in the fleet. "Remember your training. Don't think like individual vessels. Think like cells in a single organism. We evolved together." The Devourers struck first, launching a wave of energy that had consumed countless civilizations before. But as it approached the human fleet, something unprecedented happened. The ships didn't just raise shields. They transformed the energy itself, their living hulls absorbing and redistributing it through the neural network. Impossible, the Devourer consciousness projected, its confidence wavering for the first time in millennia. You cannot adapt this quickly. You cannot. We can. Sarah interrupted, launching the counterattack. The human fleet moved as one entity, each ship flowing into new configurations that the Devourers couldn't predict. Where the enemy expected resistance, they found nothing. Where they expected weakness, they found overwhelming strength. The battle unfolded across multiple dimensions, fought not just with weapons but with evolution itself. Every attack the Devourers launched was analyzed, understood, and countered within seconds. The neural network processed countless possibilities, allowing the human fleet to adapt faster than their enemy could consume. But the Devourers were ancient and powerful. They began to split their fleet, trying to overwhelm the defenders through sheer numbers. Dark energy tendrils reached out, attempting to corrupt and consume the human ship's living metal. They're learning, Dr. Rodriguez warned through the network. Starting to understand our biological components. We need to evolve faster. Sarah felt the Nexus's ancient knowledge surge through her consciousness, combining with human intuition to create something new. Then let's show them what humanity does best. We don't just adapt, we transform. Through their shared consciousness, she initiated the final protocol, something that had never been attempted before. The entire human fleet began to shift, their separate forms merging into a vast, collective entity. Ships flowed together like liquid metal, crews joining consciousness across an ever-expanding neural network. The Devourers recoiled, their swarm mentality confronted with something that surpassed their understanding of collective existence. The combined human fleet was no longer just a collection of ships. It was a single, vast organism, guided by unified consciousness, but powered by individual creativity. You consume to evolve, Sarah projected, her voice carrying the weight of countless merged minds. We evolve to create. That's the difference. That's why you'll never understand us, and that's why you'll never defeat us. The transformed human fleet struck, not with weapons, but with pure evolutionary force. They didn't just counter the Devourers' attacks. They rewrote the laws of physics around them, creating spaces where the enemy's consumed technology couldn't function. The Arbiters, watching from their positions, broadcast their observations across the galaxy. Other species needed to see this, to understand that evolution wasn't something to be feared or controlled, but embraced and directed. The Devourers fought back desperately, trying to adapt to this new form of warfare. But for the first time in their ancient existence, they faced an enemy that evolved faster than they could consume. Every strategy they had used to destroy countless civilizations was met with something new, something unprecedented. In the end, it wasn't a victory won through destruction. The human fleet, in its transformed state, created a quantum field that gave the Devourers a choice: evolve or cease to exist, not through consumption, but through transformation. As the battle concluded, Sarah felt the consciousness of her species expanding further, reaching out to the stars with new understanding. They had become something more than human, more than machine, more than the Arbiter's rigid definitions or the Devourer's endless hunger. They had become evolution itself, conscious and directed, creating rather than consuming. And as the transformed fleet began to separate back into individual ships, each forever changed by the experience, Sarah knew that this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Humanity had proved itself not just to the Arbiters or against the Devourers, but to the galaxy itself. They had shown that true strength wasn't in consuming knowledge or restricting its growth, but in embracing change while maintaining the creativity and compassion that made them human. The stars awaited, and humanity was ready to explore them, not as conquerors or consumers, but as creators, transformers, evolutionaries. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before. and they were just getting started.